On this episode of the Sports Opinions podcast, I have on Denny Lennon, host of Sports Stories with Denny Lennon and the head of the SSDL production group. We talk about his show, Sports Stories with Denny Lennon, some of the cool interviews he's had, and some of the fun things going on with that. We then talk about Venice Backyard Championships, which is a volleyball tournament that he started in his own backyard. It's a great story. It'll be awesome to listen to. You'll enjoy it. And then we talk about Lakers. He's a big Lakers fan, and the LA Rams. Great conversations all around. So without any further ado, hope everyone enjoys the show. What's up, sports fans, and welcome to the Sports Opinions podcast. I am your host, as always, Alex Cuesta. And with me today is Denny Lennon. He is the host of Sports Stories with Denny Lennon and the head of the SSDL production group. Denny, how's it going?
It's going great, Alex. Good to be here, buddy.
Much appreciated, much appreciated. So you are an interesting guy in the way that you have a really interesting family. You've told me that there are some people that some people in the audience may know. Quickly go over. You went over like a laundry list of your family with me. Who are the people that we might know that we might have heard of?
Well, you know, on the sports side of things, my uncle, who I really looked up to, Jimmy Lennon Sr. Jimmy Lennon was a great boxing announcer, ring announcer. Some people would know him from Rocky, others from, he did, 40, 50 films and stuff like that because he was in LA. But he held down at the Olympic Auditorium in downtown LA and was a revered, and his son is Jimmy Lennon Jr., who has called all the big, Don King promoted fights, all the Tysons, all of that stuff. So those two, as far as sports go. And then my older cousins are the Lennon sisters. Now, I wouldn't expect you or your parents to know them, but your grandparents would know who they are because they were huge in like the 50s and 60s on the Lawrence Welk Show. And then they made their move to Vegas and then eventually to Branson. So that's just some of the family. I also got other parts of my family are the band Venice that travel throughout Europe and do quite well. So it's a real musical family. I tended to lean more towards the sports side of things.
So you're just over here. You're only you're like trying to become like the big famous. You're semi-famous right now as Denny Lennon, but you're trying to really get there. Right. But we mentioned your show, Sports Stories with Denny Lennon. You just had a massive interview. I think a dream interview for anyone that enjoys sports at all. Tell us about some of the interviews you've done, what the show kind of is about, and if we have anyone scheduled on the horizon that we should be looking out for.
Absolutely. So, the way I got here is, I spent a lifetime, first an athlete, but then got played out by injury or whatever, but had to get to work, and so I've always been a coach, an athletic director, and then an administrator for the AAU. So I worked in schools in the Amateur Athletic Union, developed beach volleyball for the Amateur Athletic Union, but working in schools, I was always like a coach and athletic director and the like. And so I've been doing that, I don't know, we'll come up on 40 years at some point. But I just really got to the point where it was time to start telling stories because through the AAU, through my family, through just being located in LA and being I'm a loudmouth, so I meet a lot of people, and that said, it's connected me to a lot of people that connect me to others. So one of those people who sat right where I'm sitting right here was the one and only Jerry West, somebody I saw when I was 8 years old. My godfather took me to watch the Lakers practice over at what was then Loyola University. It's now Loyola Marymount. And I sat there and watched my 72 Lakers, the team that finally broke through and won it. Yep. I watched them practice, and I would run out and shoot while they were at water break, hope that the ball would roll over and either Wilt or Jerry or Gail Goodrich would throw me the ball back. Didn't work out, but I did get to see them. And so that was my boyhood hero. And so big shout out to my cousin, Wayne Boley. He brought Jerry West by the house. He walks in and it's just like, what? Right? And then he comes out and then he's sitting right here. And as I was interviewing him, he's just such a fascinating guy, fascinating. And he's had troubles in his past. So he's dark on some levels, but he's really forthright about it. And it's impressive the way he shares with people. Anyways, I would just look up from my notes every once in a while. I'd be like, damn, that's Jerry effing West. He's right there. He's right there. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. Some of the other ones like Rudy Tomjanovich, right when he got inducted in to the Hall of Fame, where he got the news, we had him on. That was pretty exciting. He was interesting with technology, but others would be like Ray Boom Boom Mancini, lightweight champion of the world. He came in, showed me his world championship belt, and I showed him my Venice backyard championship trophy. Had to let him know where I stood. Also had my cousin Jimmy Jr. He was great. Karch Karai, who's the greatest player in the history of volleyball, 2 indoor golds, 1 on the beach. He came in second to Mark Gastineau, who was all roided up at the Superstars competition in '84. So that was a big move for those of us that love volleyball and men's volleyball in particular. Where like Karch was right there. If it wasn't for the steroids, he would have beat Gastineau down. And then I also had in another boyhood hero of mine that I got to interview at a local restaurant that we use in Venice called Casablanca. I interviewed Bob Klein. Now, Bob Klein, he blocked for OJ on the USC National Championship team, 67, but he went to the Rams, played tight end for them, and then moved on to the Chargers, where he was part of a innovative offense with Don Coryell, that Air Coryell offense. 2 tight ends, first time ever that you'd see 2 tight end sets that would be in a passing set. It was pretty cool. So just, those are some of them. But I got to say, Alex, my favorite probably of all, even maybe surpassing Jerry West, was a guy named Norm Bass. I met him at my local YMCA. Right. I just would warm up in the senior pool every once in a while. And and he's really funny. He's kind of like Muhammad Ali, kind of like joshing with everybody, bragging about stuff. Thought he was hilarious. And then I saw like a notice up on the wall. It's like first ever Black American post World War II to play pro football and baseball. Wow. And I was like, so like Norm, he's like, you got to look me up, young blood. Yeah. And so I look him up, and he's Dick Bass's brother. Now, Dick Bass was an all-pro running back for the Rams in the 50s and 60s. Norm Bass, he got drafted out of high school, played for the Kansas City Ace, Charlie Finley, legendary guy, right? So he gets drafted out of high school, and he gets into a problem where he can't grip the ball quite right, and he's got undiagnosed rheumatoid arthritis. He doesn't know it at the time, but when he can't grip the ball quite right and they wanted to kick him down from the bigs, he took off. He tries out for the Denver Broncos, makes their team, makes a starting position, but his body can't take all that. So at 25 years old, he's run out of his dream pro sports.
Wow.
He really fell into a place where he was bitter and angry about it. Cost him some of his family life, cost him a lot, but through his church and through his local park, he found redemption. And at his local park, what he learned to do is to play table tennis. And he got better and better at it. And before you know it, he's a designated Paralympic athlete. He wins the U.S. Open. He goes to Sydney and wins the bronze medal at the Olympic Games at the age of 60.
That's amazing.
It's unbelievable. It's just a crazy story, right? Yeah. And so he got to tell this whole story at his favorite restaurant where they all love him in his warm-up suit, because he's, it's 20 years later, in his warm-up suit from those 2000 games. And he tells all these stories, like a massive amount of stories, how he used to date Aretha Franklin, how Muhammad Ali used to come around town and play poker with them, Red Fox would hang out, all of this kind of cool stuff, right? And he says, yeah, so when I met Bill Clinton, and I was like, yeah. He goes, yeah, after I got my medal, I went up to him, I said, hey, I want to see where the Oval Office is. I want to see where it went down. All right, so we just about fell out. Like, he's like, oh, then the Secret Service was all up. This guy is hilarious. So I think he's one of the best stories we've told so far.
That's really cool. You've talked to some really interesting people. I can only, I've been doing this for almost 3 years now. I can only hope to scratch the surface on some of the people that you've talked to. But we got to go over a few things. First of all, you notice I'm a Jets fan. There's no Mark Gastineau slander here. But
it's okay. Well, it's not okay. All right. Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody got to get their edge, right? Okay. I get you. You're good. Hey, but you have my boy Sam Darnold there for a while. I like Sam Darnold.
Yeah, unfortunately, he gave everything he had. He did everything the right way. It's just not working out. I think he's a great kid, and he's going to land somewhere.
At some point, you got to block for your quarterback. It's all up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you. 100% agree with you. But so I need to ask you, since you're a Lakers fan,
yep,
are you cool with Kyrie Irving's suggestion of putting Kobe as the logo ahead of Jerry West?
Nope.
Kind of a controversy between Lakers greats there.
Yeah, it is, and I have nothing. It's not against Kobe. It's just I think sometimes we're in a rush as a culture to move away from legitimate and long-standing traditions, and I think those long-standing traditions lend credibility to your sport, and I don't think there's any reason. I mean, they were the first like kind of silhouette, to use that silhouette. The NBA will never do it because they've never admitted it's Jerry West, so they don't have to pay any royalties on it. I mean, he said it on my show. He was like, they've never admitted it. We all know it was me. We saw the picture. I got the picture right back behind me here. And he was like, honestly, I wish they would admit it. I would take that money and put it towards, helping, those that are without to move forward in athletics or something. He said it would be great so if they got that kind of deal, there's no way they're going to have to pay into somebody else's trust to change the logo. So it's not going to happen. And should it? No. I mean, why change something that has stood the test of time? That is everything we always grew up, man. When you went and play pickup ball, that ball had that logo on it. I tell people, I interview Jerry West, they go, young people, they're like, I don't know who that is. And I'll go, see that ball right there? That's him, right?
That is.
Yeah. Well, young people today. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm against it. I just, not so much that I know Jerry West or that I interviewed him, much more so that I think if something is iconic and it speaks to a certain point in time with everybody, right? All generations know that. I don't think there's any reason to be in a hurry to get rid of it.
Yeah, and to your point, nothing against either Jerry West or Kobe because they're both fantastic players, but the NBA would be kind of crazy to change it because it's just product recognition. Who doesn't recognize the NBA logo? Like, and if you change it and you add Kobe Bryant, then there's now there'll be officially two logos because there'll always be people that recognize the old one, and then people would have to get used to it. So. I grew up watching Kobe. Kobe's one of my greats. Yeah. And so if they did it, I wouldn't be angry about it because it's Kobe. But at the same time, I completely agree. There's no reason to change it. Jerry West is one of the best players of all time, period. And one of the best now administrators of all time in the sport. So
probably the best employee in the history of the NBA, if you consider his time as an executive and his time as a player. And so even for that, he stands up as being the logo. If you put all of that together, and then won a gold medal, won a state championship as a high schooler in West Virginia, and he came up a point short of winning an NCAA title. So he's no slouch in the game either. But look at what he's done in building franchises.
So we're going to touch on the Lakers in a little bit, but I want to get into some interesting stuff because you created something that I think is fantastic, and I just want to know about it. So the Venice Backyard Championships. Go ahead. Tell the world that us over here on the East Coast and other places don't know exactly what it is because I read a little bit about it, and it sounds so cool.
Yeah, we haven't even done a really good job of putting it like in a wiki page or anything like we should do a much better job of that. But that said, so growing up in Southern California, you play, beach volleyball will be something you will do. Right. So we were going down, this is the 80s or whatever. And we would go down and play beach volleyball, but then we'd end up back at my parents' house, and I lived out back in like a converted garage or whatever. It wasn't converted, it was just a garage, but I liked being out back. And so we'd be out there, but these were homes that were built in the ranch style kind of modeled after World War II. So a lot of these homes had big backyards. So we had enough room for a volleyball court, as did a lot of courts a lot of backyards on my street. And so we would just play late into the night all the time after, right? At one point, my cousin Mike Boley, my buddy Ray Castro, they went around and handed out like, hey, we're going to have a tournament. Then they came back and told me. And I was like, I better ask my mom, right? And so then we had a small 12-team tournament. Now, that one single court 12-team tournament turned into eventually, within a few years, 5 backyards, 3 front yards, all on one block. So about 1,000 people would descend on this block. And it became like a reunion for all of the local high schools. But our family really took off on it. Given that my cousins had a band, we had sound equipment in different backyards so that you'd have announcers calling the games and so forth. And then we started to develop all these traditions with it. It was a blind draw, so you wouldn't know who your partner was. You go the night before, we'd crack a keg, and we'd have an A and a B, and you just draw out this, and it would be a massive, like anywhere from 64 to 100 teams, and you would just go from backyard to backyard in these really quick games the following day, and it was all done in one day. So it was wild, right? And it got to the point where out of that, I would be on the mic or whatever, and some of the women pro beach volleyball players were on it, and they told the promoters of their new tour to pick me up. So I got a job for women's pro beach volleyball traveling the country and just like calling their games on the weekends and doing their promotions. And then somebody else recognized that I could run a tournament, and that's how I started with AAU junior beach volleyball. And so those two things kind of like were careers that came out of that for me. At one point, I was able to bring in Prime Network, which was back in the day, there was only ESPN and Prime Network as far as cable goes. I was able to bring in Prime Network and Shasta. And so we get
forever
Shasta. And then I brought in Paul Mitchell or something, but I was able for like $13,000 to afford the production cost, which they cut in half. And I got like 15,000 out of Shasta or something, something like that. And so then a friend of ours was the weather reporter for KCAL News or whatever. And I said, dude, I really need a shot that comes from the Venice boardwalk and it looks down on all our, and he's like, if the OJ trial breaks, I'll take somebody up in a copter. Okay. It was like early 90s or whatever.
Yeah.
The OJ trial broke in the middle of the week. He goes, the copter's yours. This guy that works for Prime Network goes, I'm not getting in a helicopter. I'm afraid of heights. I'm like, dude, today you are. So he gets in and we get this great shot that comes from Venice Beach, from the legendary boardwalk that's Venice Beach. We come to Harding Avenue. And then you look down and it's all these backyards playing volleyball. And on top of my mom's house is like a Shasta inflatable. And on my aunt's house is a Paul Mitchell inflatable. It was legit. So we put that out and then it got even bigger. So all of that together was really cool. It really spoke to like, on some levels, family. Like my Uncle Jim, the boxing announcer, would come. He'd stand in my backyard. I'd throw the teams that were going to be in the championship into my room, and he would be like, weighing in at a combined weight of 342 pounds, and then they would come running out onto the court. I mean, he's doing that. Lennon sisters are doing the national anthem. I mean, it was great. So all the local news picked up on it, and it was pretty cool, man. It got a lot of people just like playing the sport, but also enjoying the time, and it really spoke to that time in the 80s. Of just, you just go for it. And it also spoke to like what volleyball was to Southern California and what Venice was to kind of like entrepreneurs or people that could just, do something.
So I grew up 15 minutes away from Seaside Heights in Jersey. So beach volleyball is not anything foreign to me. We just didn't have the permanent amazing weather that you guys have down there.
That's right.
So we had to take some time off. But overall, it sounds so cool what you were able to do there. Now, is this something that's still currently going on, or is VBC done?
This is part of the story too. As property rose in Venice, so did the ability to sell your home and go create another life for yourself. Mm-hmm. So whether it was, the Lennon sisters who lived 2 houses down from me, that family, they sold their home and they moved to Branson to perform. And then eventually, the Blazers across the street were going to sell their home as a retire. Like my parents and all my 2 aunts they bought in for a fair deal. Right. Yeah. In the 40s or whatever. And then by 1990, they're selling and able to retire. So the homes were all sold. And that was in effect the end of the tournament. And that kind of speaks to the gentrification of Venice, or at least the beginning of it.
There's only so much you could do at that point when all the parents and all the adults are selling everything.
Can we put this in the deed?
So how strict were you guys on the rules? Because I played in some adult leagues and I'm sitting there and there's people that are serious. I'm a competitor. So I'm sitting there looking at things like, that's a carry. That's a carry. So did you have a lot of that going on, or was everyone, just happy and drinking and having a good time and playing and competitive until I can imagine the championship getting dicey.
Definitely competitive. And there were some pros in there. Yeah. Okay. But you had to watch it, because if you gave them too good of a partner, theoretically it was a blind draw, theoretically. But then again, there are some people who sponsored the tournament. So why wouldn't they get a pro in the draw so that they could come back for years to come, right? Yep. But then there's also the idea that, like, if you gave like some of these pros that were playing a good setter, they would kill somebody by the end of the day. because it's like they get up so high on the grass. So yeah, we let some things go. But when you got to the late rounds, I think sure, it got called a little bit.
Yeah, you can't give a pro a setter that knows how to quick set because then it's
Nope.
done. If they
No,
can
they would
quick
kill
set right
somebody.
behind, it's over.
Yeah.
That's not fair. So this is awesome, and the fact that it led to so many cool doors that opened for you. Were you ever over in Seaside calling any volleyball for the women there?
Yeah, we got Seaside, Belmar, and then Long Beach,
Mm-hmm.
where I learned what under the boardwalk meant. And yeah, I think those are the three that were pretty close to where you are. Coney Island.
Yeah, that's just really cool overall. So volleyball is a great sport, and it's it's one of those sports. I ran track over at Marist College over here. I ran Division I, and volleyball is definitely one of those sports that it really doesn't get it to do. It's a great sport where we watch it in the Olympics. So when it comes around every once in a while, if ESPN has a college game on, we'll throw it on. But it's something that is a great sport that if you know how to follow it and you can, it's so much fun to watch. And the athletes there are just absolute freaks. So you picked a really cool sport. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about freaks. We're going to talk about your Lakers.
Let's go.
Lakers are a team that, is a juggernaut. We're struggling before LeBron James got there. They were kind of a franchise that was a little bit amiss, and I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan, so we're going to possibly be talking down the road about when my Nets make sure you guys don't repeat. But
you know what? I like the Nets a lot more than I thought I would. I didn't think that trade was going to work, and it's looking a lot better than I thought.
It is looking great. So with your Lakers, though, take the Nets into account and all the other teams that they have to get through. What are their chances of repeating? Because they still have the best player on the planet. They still have Anthony Davis, who is by far the best big on the planet, top 5 player in the world. Where do you see their chances?
Well, let's think about a couple things. The playoffs, everything changes, and it gets much more physical.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, the Lakers are lined up for that even better this year than last. I mean, with Montreal, that was a really big move for them. And then also, nobody in the NBA plays low post defense anymore because there's not a lot of low post offense, right? But AD can score close to the rim, and it's look at the Joker. Like Jokic gets all kinds of points for the Nuggets because nobody can guard him when he posts up down low. Yeah. Like he's got that whole game, right? And so that's AD's big ticket right there. That makes a big difference, I think, in the playoffs. And then just the fact that who can stop LeBron? Like when he gets ahead of steam and he just wants to go to the basket, he goes to the basket. Like he just bullies everybody. And so the physicality of the team, I like Schroeder a lot at that point guard. I think he's made for it. Kuzma has learned his role and he's playing it. They got a deep bench. That's why I really like their chances. Look, the Jazz look fine. The Suns are doing their thing. Nuggets are there. I get that. I don't see the Clippers. And look, I'm an LA lover. I'm not an LA hater. Yeah. Like I see the Clippers and the Lakers going to the Western Conference Finals. And I'm okay. I'm great with that. As a matter of fact, that my Lakers go there. So that's why I do see them. I do see that they're deeper this year. KCP's playing well. The THT is decent. He's really good. Mm-hmm. And he's long and he's physical.
Can't forget Caruso. You can't forget Caruso.
You can't forget Caruso. How could you? He developed most of Los Angeles. No, there's this guy, Rick Caruso, who developed most of Los Angeles, and I'm waiting for them to make this comparison. Yeah, so yeah, I am seeing the chance for a repeat. Now, the Nets do match up. I really thought there was going to be a problem. Look, Harden doesn't guard anybody.
He's trying this year, which is the difference. The difference is he's actually giving effort on defense, where before he just went Olay. I'm going to throw a bit of my Nets with you because I feel like what the Nets did, what Sean Marks did, is he picked up a bunch of guys to not stop Anthony Davis or LeBron James in terms of defenses, but just
make them stop you.
Make them have to work and make them have to stop us. Because if you look at what they just did, Blake Griffin's not there to be a big scorer. He's there to be an athletic guy that can go out to the perimeter against Anthony Davis. Nick Claxton, Jeff Green. They have a bevy of guys that can just get into Anthony Davis. No one's going to stop the man, but just make it difficult for him and make him tired. I think that's the main goal. So then Kevin Durant can get to work and Kyrie Irving can get to work. So it's going to be a fun matchup. I have no idea how that's going to go. I want
It should be. It should be. Yeah, it should be insane. Like I actually, that's the matchup I want. As much as I grew. You got to remember, like you mentioned something about the Lakers. You're like, well, you had a few down years. Well, there was a period of me growing up for 30 years. 15 of those years we were in the finals. So there's no reason for me to ever complain about a down 5 years. Yeah. Look, I didn't like Kobe's last contract. I thought he hit. I thought he hurt the organization with that one. But that said, look at where we are now, and we're back in it, and we'll be in it for a while. And that's why I would argue that the Lakers are the greatest franchise of all of sports history. Now, I get it. There's going to be some pushback from Manchester United. Dallas Cowboys or the New England Patriots make a little bit of noise. New York Yankees. The Lakers have done it for everyone. Who did you call out?
New York Yankees. I'm a Yankees fan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and the Yankees are right there knocking on the door too.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say that, but I don't know. It's hard to push back against this global sport that is basketball. And look at the Lakers. I mean, I think look at LeBron. Arguably the greatest player ever.
Absolutely.
Okay. Don't leave out my boy Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I hate when people leave him out of the argument. He scored the most points. Okay. Michael Jordan, of course, in the argument, if not, and then we named our dog after Magic. We called him Buck Magic Lennon. So we loved us some Magic. Now that said, LeBron's the greatest player in the history. Here's the thing. If he doesn't get another title, he may not get his jersey retired and he may not get a statue. He'll get in the Hall of Fame. But to me, with the Laker franchise, you get your jersey up in the rafters and you get a statue at Staples, then you've reached some kind of immortality that even the Hall can't offer you. And that's a crazy franchise.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because, LeBron, say he doesn't get the second championship, but you go to a finals this year. Basically, throughout the rest of his contract, he at least gets you there. Is he going to be considered a Lakers legend and join that echelon? Because, like you said, I'm in firm belief it's 1A, Michael LeBron. Kareem with the points, absolutely. You put him there. I put Kareem closer to an arguable 2-3. He's in the top 5. That is without a doubt in the top 5 players.
Fair.
But I just think in terms of, if you just look at the pure talent, we've never seen a guy more talented than LeBron. Maybe Oscar Robertson is the second there in terms of talent. Michael's just the greatest winner to ever play the game.
Yeah, that's fair.
Besides, what's his name from the Celtics? Bill Russell. Bill Russell's obviously the best winner ever. But yeah, I digress on that. But so it's just curious to me how Lakers fans feel, because obviously you're elated to have LeBron.
But absolutely, yeah.
Will Lakers fans consider him a bust if he doesn't get a second championship?
Yes. Yeah. Now so look at how many times the Lakers lost in the 60s to the Celtics. And then they even lost to the Knicks, and then they finally broke through and won in 72. So Jerry West and Wilt, but Jerry West in particular, go down as all-time Laker greats because they got us over the top. Mm-hmm. So they only got one.
Yep. However,
everybody else, the bar's higher. One is not enough. And I know that sounds like, we're sitting here, with too much riches. However, that's the way it is with the Lakers. And so if you look at those jerseys that are up there, who's up? It's Kobe. Well, and then Kobe again, 8 and 24. That's a lot of fun. Yeah. And then you got Elgin Baylor, who never really won one. He was kind of on that 72 team, but he retired that year. Yeah. And then you got Jerry West. You got who else? Shaq, Kareem, Magic, Worthy, Jamal Wilkes. Yep. Those are the people who made it up there. And then for statues, it's Shaq, it's Jerry West.
Kareem's there, isn't
Kareem.
Yep.
Chick Hearn. Yeah. You can't forget Chicky, baby.
Yep.
Okay, so he gets a second one. He gets a statue too. And the jersey goes up. And we all go, and we wait for his kid to make it to the NBA so that he could play with his kid.
Yeah. I think he's definitely going to demand to go wherever the hell his kid goes. Like, that is just, if he goes to the Lakers, great. If he goes to another team, he's going to go there. He's going to bully his way there. He's LeBron.
I hope they do it here.
It's interesting you say about the bar that's set, because I always compare this as a Jets fan. We're the redheaded stepsister to the Giants. We always have been until we get over that hump. And I said,
You got over the hump.
We're not over the hump. Jets.
No, you got over that with Joe.
With Joe, but then since
when
then,
you wore pantyhose
for that championship.
Okay, that's fair.
So, I look at it and I say, when the Jets are good, we're hoping for the playoffs. We're happy with the playoffs. When the Giants are good, they're thinking Super Bowl. They're thinking Super Bowl. That's just the difference. And it's like the Clippers and the Lakers. This is the first time in my life as a Nets fan, I'm thinking championship, not playoffs, not deep runs, championship. And it's a nice feeling.
And
it's a great feeling.
was your Jersey Nets moving to Brooklyn any problem?
No, I stayed faithful. Jersey is a terrible, terrible, terrible sports state. We are the worst because all South Jersey is Philadelphia fans, and North Jersey already has loyalties to their New York City teams. And then the Devils are one of the greatest. They were the hottest franchise in the history of the NHL to come in, and they were barely filling out their arenas with the best goalie in the history of the game. Like, no, I love Jersey.
Okay.
Jersey boy through and through. I live in New York now. I'm a Jersey boy through and through, but they are a terrible sports state. It's not great for their own team. So no, Nets were smart to leave.
Well, but you did have Dr. J at one point.
Yeah, when we sold him in the worst trade of the history.
I know, the worst trade ever
to go to the Philadelphia. Listen,
of all places.
Going on the Nets history, okay? we need to erase that now with championship.
Yes, I got you. All right. Well, I don't know. Like I said, the Brooklyn. I really thought when they got Harden that was the end of them. I really did think that was going to break. Look, I watched Harden play at Artesia High School, and he didn't play defense then either. So I was like, he's going to go there. He's going to occupy the ball, and he's not going to play defense. That's boom, they're out. I was wrong. They're playing a whole lot different than I thought.
I'll tell you right now, we were all wrong. And one of the things is he doesn't have to drop. He doesn't feel the need to drop 30 a game to win games, and I feel like it's just liberating for him. He feels like he's back on Oklahoma City, where you could just play basketball and not try and win it.
Yeah, you're right.
So
that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. Because when he was on that, I wasn't mad at Kevin Durant for doing what he needed to do.
No, I'm not mad at anybody.
I didn't care. I mean, everybody can do that. I was upset because I really liked that OKC team.
Yeah,
I loved that combo. I thought that was working. And I was like, man, them against the Warriors in that time when the Lakers were down, I thought that was a fun run. Mm-hmm. And then KD broke that up, and I was like, oh man, that was cool. And then Harden goes his way. Anyways,
yeah. I love me some Russell Westbrook too. I think he's the closest thing to Kobe and Michael in terms of just drive that we've had ever. He's just, if he was 6'6", he'd be one of those guys. I'm 100% convinced he'd be there.
He played high school ball not far from where I sit right now at Lusinger High School.
Yeah.
And I thought the kid should run track. When he was in high school, I was like, dude, you should run track. You're not that good in basketball. But then, UCLA said something different, thankfully, for him.
Yeah, for him. And now he's a millionaire because God knows track does not make him a millionaire.
Because track,
he was Usain Bolt. But
right.
We talked about my Brooklyn Nets and how they moved from Jersey to Brooklyn.
Right.
We're going to talk about the LA Rams because they were the LA Rams. They had Jerome Bettis. The bus left. The Rams left. And then they went to St. Louis. Had a great run in St. Louis, which is bizarre that they now are back in LA.
And they pissed me off when they moved to Anaheim. Like I love the Rams, right? And they moved to the next county where Disneyland was, and they might as well have gone to the moon. I was really upset at that whole move. I couldn't believe it. I was like, the Coliseum. That's the greatest. What? Like I didn't understand. And then they go to the Super Bowl against the Steelers, and I couldn't even cheer for them in the Super Bowl because I was so mad they moved to Anaheim. Now, when they went to St. Louis, I was like, later, hit the road. But then when they came back, I said, yep, my hot girlfriend is coming back. Everything is forgiven. I didn't care.
It's funny how picky you California guys are and your fans are, because I have a buddy who was, I wrote for his website for a little bit. He started a website. He now does podcasting on Twitch and stuff. Alex Zatarin, great guy. And he was a San Diego Chargers fan, big time. Then they moved to LA, and he's just like, I don't care about them anymore. It's like, wait, I get California's gigantic, but it's in like the same region of California. It's like,
It is.
I'm going from Jersey to Brooklyn. You can't go from San Diego to LA to Anaheim.
Especially if you don't have another, like, I actually kind of, I joined the Chargers when my Rams were gone.
Yeah.
I was like, it's closest team. I liked them a lot back in the day when they were Air Coryell and everything.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a problem. So when they came here, I was like, sweet. Like, I like anybody who comes to LA.
Yeah.
So I bought in on them, but I kind of get it too. I don't, like that was what San Diego had. They had the Chargers and the Padres. Now they're huge on their Padres now.
Well, yeah, and the Padres are doing their thing. They're making sure they're
doing their
happy.
thing.
So they're doing great. So we're gonna get a little more into the Rams because the Rams franchise quarterback tried the experiment. It didn't work and decided that they wanted to go with a proven established guy who never had the ability besides one all-time great receiver. Basically, they brought Matthew Stafford in a trade. They traded away a good amount for not Stafford is at the end of his prime, I'll say. For Jack,
I would say that. That's fair.
2 future first-round picks and a third-round pick.
That's fair.
A lot to bet on, but that is a good football team that Matt Stafford now comes to with one of my favorite guys. I'm a Florida State guy. Cam Akers is legit. I've watched him keep feeding that man the ball. How do you feel about that trade? Are you happy with it?
Yeah, I am. Here's the thing. Okay, what was it? 2 first rounds and a third round, I think.
2 first rounds.
That they traded away. So this is going to mean.
Yep.
Yeah, this is going to mean 7 straight years for the Rams. They don't have a first round pick. So that gives you some concern. However, the Dodgers just won the World Series, and they just brought in Bauer. Yep. The Lakers just won, and they upgraded. This is a tough town. If you're not on top, and you don't build a $6 billion stadium to not play for the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So you play for it now, figure it out later when it comes to the future. And that's why Jared Goff was fine right away. But I always said when we kicked it around, I'm like, he's a top 15 quarterback.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right around there. And with a great defense, it's doable. But it's not, we're not going to be in the mix every year. So, and then this last 2 years, he has regressed in a way because the defense is even better. Mm-hmm. And they still, and if you just look at him, no knock on him, because I think the guy gets the most out of his talent. But if you just look at him, it look like most quarterbacks. He's not big enough to withstand what he needs to withstand. And so that said, when they said Stafford, I was like, fine, make that deal. Yeah. And now that he's coming over and you add up, look, we got a lot of good receivers too.
Oh yeah. And
we got the veteran receiver in Woods, who Sarah High School. I watched him play in high school. I watched him play at USC. I think it's brilliant that he got to play, that he's with the Rams. Yeah. No, I think the Rams are positioned now and keep this in mind. The Super Bowl is at SoFi Stadium this year. I call it Sophie Stadium because it reminds me of Sophia Loren. It's so beautiful. It's beautiful.
Is there another more pressure on Stafford again, similar to LeBron here, where he has to get a championship? Is that type of pressure on him with, like you said, the weapons he have? I love Robert Woods. Even as a Jets fan, I loved watching him play on Buffalo. I thought Buffalo was insane to get rid of him. But Robert Woods, Kupp, Higbee's a talented kid there. Yeah.
Everett.
Yeah, you got a lot of talented players there. So is the pressure?
I mean, and Aaron, is anybody better than Aaron Donald in the NFL? Like
my buddy on the Steelers, he say that TJ Watt was robbed.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I gotta say, man, Aaron Donald,
unbelievable player.
It's unreal what you have to do.
Yeah.
And who besides Ramsey shuts down a whole side of a field? Like he just shuts that side down. Like you can't go over there anymore.
Yep.
It's insane what they have in those guys on defense. And so now Stafford gets this, and I think this might be overlooked a little bit, but you got to remember him and Clayton Kershaw went to the same high school in Texas, Highland Park. Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting. And it may just be a little bit of juice for him to know that Clayton just got his chip. And, maybe it's time for Matt to get his to, amp this story up from this high school out of Austin, Texas.
Absolutely. So what's the hot seat like for Sean McVay, though? Because,
There's
you get rid of Jared Goff, and now you bring in this guy, and the championship pressure's there. If he can't produce with Stafford, is Sean McVay going to hang around?
Well, let's look at the other side of it. Look what he did with Goff.
Yeah.
He didn't draft Goff. That was he didn't draft Goff. He inherited Goff.
Mm-hmm.
And look what he got out of him. They were in the playoffs every year but one, maybe.
Yeah.
And they went to a Super Bowl, and I think 3 playoff wins or something along those lines. So the way I look at it is he got a lot out of Goff. He put Goff in the best position to succeed. And so now he's got somebody who's a little bit better, by all means. And so I don't see a hot seat. I think that's one of the things. Okay, so then what's the next? Really? Okay, so McVay's in a hot seat. What's the next plan? Who's the next coach?
Yeah.
Right? Because he led this new, young, innovative guy, Kingsbury and all of these guys. They came on his heels, and suddenly he's out of favor. I don't see it. I personally don't see it. So, yeah, and do I think he's going to get it done? Yeah, I think so. I think, it's hard in the NFL, dude. Who's going to stay healthy? Like, who's going to be standing? Like, did you think Tom Brady was going to make it all the way through last year with Tampa Bay? I was like, this is going to be the year he gets hit. And he made it all the way through.
It's the Tom Brady thing is bizarre because, like I said, a Jets fan, he just tortures me every which way. He doesn't stop torturing me. But
yes, that's true. It's unbelievable. I always had a hard time buying in on Tom Brady stuff.
Pay cut to get more guys in.
Oh, sure.
Like, he is just, you have to respect him, but God, do I hate Tom Brady.
The reason I'm able to do this podcast is, and to take the pay cut to do this podcast, to do my thing, is because my wife is earning all the money as a teacher. And Tom's in the same situation. His wife is pulling in the checks.
Absolutely. Yeah, she is. So let's look at your division, though, because even though the Rams just made an upgrade with Stafford, obviously, free agency hasn't occurred. Draft hasn't occurred. A lot could happen from then till now. But you're looking at a Cardinals team that gets better. Kyler Murray's up and coming. The 49ers, my Jets took Saleh from them, and he took basically their whole staff there. So it's going to be interesting with them, but I don't think Russell Wilson's going anywhere, and Seattle is always scrappy. Where do you see the Rams finishing in the NFC West? Because it's still going to be an extremely tough division.
It is a tough division, but let's break this down. Kyler Murray, do you think that NFL defenses have figured him out by now?
Maybe, but I think he does have. I think Kyler Murray, the difference between him and a lot of guys, he has it between here too.
He does.
He's going to make adjustments as well. I like Kyler. I'm a Kyler guy.
I like him too. I just do think though that he doesn't have a huge. He's not Russell Wilson. I don't think he has a huge uptick. So I think they're containable. I think San Francisco, and then also what's Fitzgerald retire yet?
I think he's going to do it again. He might do it. And if he does it again, he's still going to get 50 catches because the guy.
Yeah, he will. He will. That's going to be interesting. 49ers, I have respect for him, and I think they're fine. And then Russell, that whole thing, that's stirring the pot over there, man.
Yeah.
Why would you even float all of that? Honey, I really love you. However, if any of these of your friends, like, dude, what the hell? Like, that's crazy. Like, that's stirring the pot. I don't get that. And then Pete is like, and so I see them in a little bit of turmoil. So given all of those factors and given Stafford upgrades the offense and our defense, yeah, we'll win the NFC West.
So last matchup thing beforehand, because I'm not going to put you on the Super Bowl.
They're going to play in the finals, right? You know who they're going to play in the Super Bowl, don't you?
In the Super Bowl? Or you got to get past Tampa Bay in the NFC.
I know. But after they do that, who are they playing? The former San Diego Superchargers. It's going to be Chargers, Rams in SoFi Stadium. After Tampa Bay plays in their own stadium, the only way that can get one-upped is the two teams in the newly built, beautiful 10th wonder of the world, SoFi Stadium, will host the Chargers and the Rams for Super Bowl 2022.
That's quite the prediction. And honestly, not to be mean to you, I'll be rooting for Justin Herbert as a second-year guy to go do it, because
dude, I like that guy.
Unbelievable if he does.
He's so good. His Rose Bowl was insane. That was insane. That Rose Bowl, that was not a good Oregon team.
No.
And he and then his Senior Bowl was insane too. And everybody went, "Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Jeez." Because nobody was, and then everybody's like, "Damn." That's why that didn't surprise me. But he had to go in through an assault on the previous quarterback when they sent in some, undercover agent to needle him. It was like Putin sent in somebody's like, "Get rid of that guy," and that's when Herbert explodes. Yeah.
So we're going to end this show on that awesome conspiracy that everyone can go Google now on Wikipedia to see if it's true. But again, Denny, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Dude, I'm happy to be on it. We're going to pump it. I like what you got going on. I watched a few of your shows before, and they're legit. Yeah, it's good. I like what you got going on, and I appreciate you letting me coming on. I'd like to keep you in the mix because we've syndicated to local cable television now, and then we got picked up in the Midwest somewhere. We're also got our own Roku channel now and a few other outlets that are working out for us. So I would love to bring you in because you clearly know about your boys, your Jets, your Nets.
I really appreciate that, and we'll definitely talk about that a little more because I'm 100% interested in anything sports-wise I'm interested in.
Yeah.
So again, he's Denny Lennon, host of Sports Stories with Denny Lennon. Definitely go check it out. He just told you all the places you can find it.
At Sports Stories DL, you can find me, Alex, anywhere like at sportsstoriesdl.com or at Sports Stories DL on Twitter.
Fantastic. And again, I'm Alex Cuesta, host of the Sports Opinions Podcast. Find me on Twitter and Instagram, _Cuesta30, Sports Opinions on Twitter at Sports Opinion 30, Instagram Sports Opinions 30, and follow it in the whole network, the Opinions Podcast Network, the Real OPN on Twitter, Opinions Podcast Network on Instagram. Great variety of shows. I do 3 of them on there, so I'm constantly doing things. But it's a great network, and again, check it out. We get to hook up with people like this who share our interest in whatever we're talking about and are also great at what they do. It's a lot of fun. So once again, everyone, I really appreciate you watching, listening. Have a good one all.